תודה, ערב טוב לכולם. ערב טוב לכבוד השר בני בגין, ליושב ראש הסוכנות היהודית,
Honorable Natan Sharansky, Congressman Elliot Engel, welcome to Jerusalem. Baruch haba Yerushalayim, Aryeh Stern, head of the conference, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. A year ago, when I took office, I came here to the Jerusalem conference and I outlined what my vision is, how I see the future of the city of Jerusalem, how one can turn Jerusalem into a focus of pilgrimage, an open city that honors all religions, the holy city that has to be rich in tradition and lifestyle, a city that wants to find mutual honor and dignity and wants to find the common factor to all. Jerusalem is a sort of a microcosmos of what happens in the state of Israel at large and way beyond. And we all have to remember that the resilience of the state of Israel depends on the resilience of Jerusalem. And the success of Jerusalem reflects dramatically on the success of the entire nation and of the Jewish people in general. And I would like to claim that economic growth in Jerusalem from bottom up and turning Jerusalem into an attractive city for entrepreneurs and young people and investors, that is a national mission. It is not only the mission of the city of Jerusalem, and my objective as mayor is bringing back to Jerusalem that special status, that appropriate and worthy status in the state of Israel and worldwide. And we are actually acting in three different areas, the first of which is Jerusalem for its residents, 800,000 residents in Jerusalem, with a metropolitan area around Jerusalem that includes more than 1 million residents together with the metropolitan. The second area is Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel and the Jewish nation, the very core of the nation. And the third area, the third circle, is more than 3.4 billion people around the world of different religion and different faith that look through a looking glass, through a magnifying glass, at everything that is happening in Jerusalem out of love and an aspiration to come and visit the city. These three circles and areas show the importance of the city. There's no other city in the world. And after a year in this office, I feel rather comfortable to stand here tonight and to say that positive changes have occurred in Jerusalem. There is a decline in the negative immigration from the city, and this year, after the first time after many years, there is a decline, and we have stopped the number of students who have registered in the government schools, public school, and an incline in the religious schools. And I imagine that some of this is the natality rate, or perhaps the atmosphere and the love of the Jerusalemites that see hope in the various trends that are happening in the city. And we have just finished encompassing reform after the first year, also as far as organization and structure and our priorities and our ways of management in the city. And I would like to outline these to you and emphasize some of the things that we have focused on. We have established a new department for business growth, and there is an increase in more than 70% growth in applications for new businesses, and we are now currently in a process of change and reform in a building, and we would like to have shortcuts for municipal services in this area that will enable growth and economic growth for builders and contractors and businessmen in Jerusalem. We are also developing 1 million square meters for industry in the Atarot area. We have put through the proposals, and hopefully we'll get the agreement of the State of Israel. We'll be able to present an infrastructure for employment of about 30,000 employees that will be employed in the industrial area in Atarot. We're also planning at the entrance of the city 700,000 square meters, including an upgrading of the ICC buildings that will be the biggest Congress buildings in the state, together with the Jewish Agency. And we are planning offices at the entrance of the city that will allow and enable more and more businesses and economy to develop in order to take out Jerusalem from that poverty circle. And it's quite clear to all of us that this will bring forth an economic growth. As far as education goes, in the last year we have seen an increase of more than 15% in the building of classrooms, sports halls and community centers, and we're investing great resources in planning and trying to reduce gaps in the classrooms in the Arab sector as well in the ultra-Orthodox sector in their neighborhoods. And the rationale is to try and reduce those 700 classrooms that are missing in those ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods in order to upgrade lifestyle to all sectors in the city. This, first of all, relates to planning, correct planning, and it requires a lot of planning and investment, work plans that we are constantly presenting to the various ministries and the State of Israel. We have also invested much resources into trying to increase the rate of matriculants, and hopefully we will see results in this coming year. Our objective is to try and increase that graph, that learning graph, and to prove that Jerusalem can find its appropriate place and be one of the leading cities around the world as far as education goes. And I know, as the previous Minister of Education, I know that we're going to see excellent results. As far as transportation goes, we decided to change the way in which things are functioned currently. If this was not clear to you, who was exactly responsible for advancing transportation? We are currently undergoing a process with the Ministry of Transportation and the Municipality of Jerusalem, and myself, of course, will take responsibility. It's called accountability in English. The accountability for the various processes to do with transportation in the city. And we have tried to accelerate during the past year very significantly to try and end that first train line. And we are preparing for the very great revolution when the first train comes into action. But we are not waiting for this. Even now, we're already making the necessary arrangements, and we are sure that in the coming weeks, we'll be able to finish the line with the various ministries and present the plan, and the plan that should end in 4 years from now, and then there is a second stage in the following years after that. But the whole issue of transportation requires a lot of attention, and verbal attention especially, and I think that we have taken control over this challenge. Again, complete coordination with the State of Israel, and hopefully the public will trust us as well, and hopefully we do see the light at the end of the tunnel. As far as culture and tourism goes, I would like to talk about the great investments that were made in the city. The budget increased by 20 million shekels. It first was 5 million shekels on average in the previous cadence to 20 million shekels. And again, the state participated without giving a shekel per shekel. Together with this matching public-private partnerships with various funds like Schusterman funds and others as well, we increased dramatically the budget for various centers of culture and tourism in the city in more than 50 million shekels. And as far as tourism goes, we want to advance this, also increase from 3 million shekels to 30 million shekels with the cooperation of the Authority for the Development of Jerusalem. And we had many other resources as well from the Ministry of Tourism that are not yet finalized, but I do know that these will go through, because I know they have the same vision that we have to progress and advance the city, and through these resources and these correct investments, we will allow for growth. These things develop the city, and it will allow Jerusalem to be a locus for tourists. As far as the city, the appearance of the city, I think it also went some sort of an improvement lately, especially during the past year, and that is the reform to build various sectors in the city and to manage these. We are not talking about dividing into various areas and neighborhoods, but we're talking about geography. So in the northern part of the city, we have Kfar Rakat, we have other areas that are the east, the Neve Yaakov, Beit Hanina, Pisgat Ze'ev. That's the north part, and there is one manager that is in charge of that area, and there is a uniform criterion as far as cleanliness is concerned. For example, this reform of managing the sector in 7 different zones will allow us to be accountable for every zone. There will be a manager that will be accountable and responsible for every zone. This change that we worked on for a period of a year was confirmed in the City Council for the budget of 2010, and we are now finalizing the various tenders in the coming month. And I do believe that this change of perception from having one single branch as far as physical treatment and a central management, I know that this reform, together with investments in the form of more than 35 million shekels as far as the cleanliness and maintenance of the city goes, it will give, and it's already giving its signs. And again, this integrative thinking of integrating the various departments and taking accountability for the various zones, I know that this is bringing about some sort of a change in thinking, in a paradigm. And I must say that this change, again, I can see how the system is undergoing various changes, and I can see that the results will be seen and visible soon. And I've decided to take responsibility for Eastern Jerusalem. And if somebody walks around, you can see negligence of many a year. And there is no connection between the various municipal plans and the reality. And unfortunately, these gaps, these discrepancies, force us to think beyond, outside of the box. And for the past year, we have been working on various plans. I've decided to take a pilot, 2 neighbors as a pilot program, Gan HaMelech and Silwan neighborhoods. And in these 2 neighborhoods, that they are situated in a very sensitive spot, maybe the second most sensitive spot after Temple Mount. We have to hold the bull in its horns, and we have to tackle the problems head on. We have to allow for better planning. We have to consider the reality taken into account. On the other hand, we have to take into account the various values, historical values of Gan HaMelech, and present a worthy proposal. And when we talk with the residents, we have to bring about some sort of optimism and optimal conditions, and soon we will present various plans, renewed planning, and I do hope and I do believe that the perception of this will be a win-win situation, first of all for the consumers of the city, for the needs of the residents and the city, and there's no contradiction between the two. We're talking about egalitarian planning. It's not going to be one of discrimination between Arabs and Jews. It will look at uniform criteria of how to manage the city without being prejudiced, without being biased, and I have no doubt that this is the only way to promote the gaps and to do away with the gaps that are prevalent in the east part of Jerusalem. And one does need courage for this, because when one delves a little more deeply, one does realize that there are so many gaps out there, there are so many problems, there are so many resources that are needed, but mainly we need to put our attention into it, to put our heart into it, and to work for the welfare of all. And I do have to say, there is another approach, and the second approach would be, it says as follows, that we continue as always with old line of thought, that we do not consider renewed planning, but I do not recommend this. I think that the correct thing to do is to look forward and to learn from history and to come up with new work plans, and not to simply carry on as always, and not to simply persevere with the old policies. I have some disputes with